Welcome to Nugget 89 with Steve Groman. What are we going to be talking about today, Steve?
Well, let's do a little overview on telescopes, and then we'll kind of get into each one and other nuggets.
That's going to be fun because we've visited a lot of the observatories across Arizona and one in Texas. We can tell them all about what they say they think they're doing. It is kind of interesting.
We will get into it.
We found this site. It's called Rank Red. It gives a list of the 12 largest telescopes in the world as of 2020. They make a comment here that human interest in space exploration leads to the development of advanced ground-based telescopes, which only escalated during the late 20th century. The ground-based telescopes, as you may know, have limited use since they can only observe a small section of the electromagnetic spectrum, which is optical, and that's why we have space-based telescopes. Can you elaborate?
Yes, basically the ground-based, they're optical and they're light-gathering devices. They have different sizes and different styles of that, but nevertheless, they're doing the same thing. They're gathering light. It's sort of like the difference in, you can look at something in the sky with your eye, and as you're outside a little longer, your eyes adjust a little better, you can see even more. But if you take some binoculars, you're going to see even more, but the same thing is still in the same place up there. And you take a telescope, you can see even more. It's not necessarily deeper, it's more light gathering and magnification.
And that's a huge point. It doesn't mean that they're seeing deeper in space. It just means that they're clarifying it. It's sort of like us having to wear readers to read our Bible, for example. We can see it, but then it comes into focus and clearer when we put our little cheaters on.
Exactly. And that's why I use the example of our own eyes. As you go outside in the night sky, you can see the stars. If you just stay out there and stay in the dark, in a short matter of time, you will be able to see incredibly more. But yet it hadn't just shown up. Our eyes have adjusted.
Let's tell everybody about where these 12 largest telescopes are. There are 3 that are under construction. They're planned, and then there are 9 that are actually operational. We want to run through this list very quickly. The 3 that are under construction are in Chile, Hawaii, and the second one in Chile. And then these are 4 additional telescopes that are in operation, and again, one in Hawaii, a second in Hawaii, and then one in Spain, and one actually in South Africa. And then another one in Chile, and in Hawaii and Chile, the Gemini, the 2 of them. Seems like Hawaii and Chile are great places, and Arizona, as we'll see very soon.
Of course, there's the one at Davis Mountains in Texas, the Hobby Eberly telescope, which we've been to McDonald Observatory.
It was beautiful out there.
It is beautiful out there.
In one of our future nuggets, we'll talk a little bit more detail and show some more pictures of our visit to the Davis Mountains.
Super dark skies are quite impressive.
And then here's the really interesting one. Why don't you tell us a little bit about this, and we'll get into this one in much greater detail in a nugget.
It's the Large Binocular Telescope, which is in Arizona. Like it says on here, it's a unique optical telescope in that it has 2 identical 8.4 meter wide primary mirrors. They're using it, like the name says, as a binocular.
And I thought those binoculars we had, those ridiculous ones, I thought those were too big.
Yeah, well, we're going to use those tonight again, too.
And here's a picture of LBT. That's one of its names. And then we've got Mount Hopkins, Arizona, where we find the Fred Lawrence Whipple Observatory. And we drove out there one day, just sort of by accident. You saw this observatory up on the mountain, and we just headed east into the desert, and we came across this observatory. And it's actually one of the most historical ones. And they have the honeycomb-style mirrors.
And there are a number of telescopes that are like this. It's not just a single big mirror like the one we had. It is actually a series of mirrors that are all focused into a single point.
We have also visited Lowell Observatory in Flagstaff and the Stewart Observatory up on Mount Lemmon, and we will take you to each one of these in the next nuggets. But we do want to tell you about something that is very current and something you can do actually tonight.
We were just out kind of stargazing and taking some star trails pictures last night, and all of a sudden I just noticed there was a comet in the sky. I didn't know it was going to be there. I mentioned to you, I said, look at that, there's a comet out there.
Yeah, at first I didn't believe you, quite frankly.
I know. It's like, wow, this is really weird.
That's got to be a
comet. But since last night, then we looked it up, and of course this thing is going to be around for a few days, so I want to really encourage people, find the Big Dipper, follow the handle down, and where the handle meets the Big Dipper, go to the exact opposite corner, catty corner across, and just look down from there. Chances are you will see this thing.
And this isn't categorized as a great comet by astronomers, but a wonderful binocular comet. And they say to get out a pair of binoculars, which is what we're going to do, get out our big bad boys and look at the comet more clearly tonight, because this one has a splendid split tail, they say. We've given you some information here on Earth Sky, can help direct you better to watching Comet Neowise is its name, and it It's just below the Big Dipper. And if you are in the southern part of the United States, you can probably see it better than those in the northern part. And here's a chart of where it will be for this next week. Take a chance, and even if you have to drive out of the city, if you can, go out and see this because it's really, really awesome. And we do want to say something interesting about comets. You talk about that in your misconceptions about space lesson, about the Oort cloud.
On NASA's website, there's even a page devoted to the Oort cloud, is where they say these comets, it's like a storehouse of them, and every so often one gets kicked out. Of course, it's interesting because they also come out and say no one has ever seen or observed the Oort cloud. They just believe it to be there. We'll get into maybe how and why that is in another nugget. They say it's an Oort cloud, but where they say it is just incredibly far out there. It's as much as it starts at 1,000 astronomical units, which an astronomical unit is the distance between the Earth and the Sun. And
according to their calculations.
According to their calculations.
Well, I was just about to ask you, why is it saying 93 billion? And I was thinking, why is that in sync with, or like the 93 million miles that they claim that the Sun is from?
They say the Oort cloud starts at about 1,000 astronomical units. A single astronomical unit is the distance between the Sun and the Earth, they say. The Oort cloud goes all the way out to over 100,000 astronomical units. So this thing, according to them, is ginormous. But then they come out and say that no one has ever seen it or directly observed it. They believe it to be there. Yeah, the beginning of that Oort cloud at 1,000 astronomical units, that is about 93 billion miles. They say these things are making a trek from 93 billion miles all the way, and then they come around and the gravity of the Sun pulls them around, and here they fly across in the sky, and we can see them. It's interesting because they say that nobody's ever seen this Oort cloud, and they have never detected it. Most people won't see a comet flying through the sky, and so it's really neat. If you get a chance, get out there and take a look at it. You'll probably see it.
Right, and just consider that it's part of the glory of God's creation. It's a cloud of these things, and we just happen to have one that's passing through where
just
we
happen
are
to be
tonight.
passing through here.
Nice of it.
How about that? Which, again, if you tie it in with what we're talking about earlier, the Earth-based telescopes are optical. So it's an interesting article in Scientific American back in April 30th of 2019. Made an incredible statement. It says, today's space telescopes provide no direct view of anything. They produce measurements through an interplay of theoretical predictions and pliable parameters, in which the model is involved every step of the way. Well, that sounds like you make it say just about whatever you want to. What's interesting is how people are really getting interested in this topic.
Well, it's cool to look up in the night sky. That's why we do it. We enjoy it, and we like taking pictures of star trails.
Yeah, I remember back in New Hampshire several years ago with our telescope, I'd be out there in it's 29 degrees below zero, looking up there, and I'd go in the house and tell you and Paul, come on, you got to come out here and look at this. Y'all walk out there and, okay, back in the house.
Fireplace has a better light.
Fireplace seemed a whole lot better.
In all seriousness, the problem with it is that they are, for the most part, evolutionists looking at these objects in the sky from an evolutionary standpoint. And the other thing is, we've tried to point out in Nuggets and in the lessons, how cosmology can turn and emphasize the minimization of humanity.
Yes, because all that stuff out there is big and massive and never-ending, so to speak.
According to them.
According to them, what they say.
But
that's
the
not true.
Bible in Isaiah has a totally different thing to say, and it says why the Lord created and what he created and for what purpose.
Isaiah 45:18 says, for thus saith the Lord that created the heavens, God himself that formed the earth, made it, he established it, he created it not in vain, he formed it. Why?
To be inhabited.
To be inhabited. I am the Lord, and there is none else. It's interesting because he made this earth here to be inhabited.
I encourage people to go back and look at our other nuggets that deal with light, deal with the planets, and to get our misconceptions about space. There is just a lot of information that we need to get in our resources so that we can combat evolutionists' attempt to minimize humanity when the Lord he says the exact opposite.
The truth of the matter is nobody knows what those things are. Nobody knows what those stars are for sure. They have a lot of beliefs about it, and we're going to cover it. We're going to get into some of this stuff as these nuggets go on. Let me just overview something here. This article says, quote, the ground-based telescopes, as you may know, have limited use since they can only observe a small section of the electromagnetic spectrum, optical, and that's why we have space-based telescopes. But if the space telescopes provide no direct view of anything, and we have those because the other ones here are limited, what is that trying to tell us? Interesting stuff here if you think about it, huh?
Well, yeah, because not all Earth-based telescopes are optical. There are the radio telescopes they're single ones, and then there are also the very large arrays, which we have seen in California and in New Mexico.
They operate in millimeter and sub-millimeter wave frequencies. It is a confusing article. We're going to dig in. You won't want to miss it.
All right, we're going to have quite a few nuggets to follow and see what we can come up with. Well, thank you. We hope you are enjoying these nuggets and the longer videos that we are posting on our YouTube channel, Steve Groman, and our Facebook pages, A Creation Seminar and Steve Dana Groman. This is a listener-supported ministry. Please tell your friends and family about our YouTube channel and our Facebook pages. These nuggets are to encourage you and encourage your family and encourage your walk with God. As you know, we are normally in churches presenting our seminar. Because of COVID, we have been derailed greatly. Our last meeting was the first week of March, and now we have had one in this last week of June, extremely scaled down version of the seminar. We have recently had 7 cancellations for July and August. So if you will keep us in your prayer, if you are blessed by these nuggets and could become a monthly partner with us, that would be greatly appreciated. Or if you could consider giving a one-time donation to help us continue to produce these nuggets and continue this ministry during such unprecedented times. Thank you.